You're walking through a forest. You aren't hunting. You aren't even making much noise. You're just wearing hiking boots and eating a granola bar. Yet to every creature around you, you are a walking nightmare. A deer stares at you with eyes the size of dinner plates before bolting like it just remembered a life-or-death appointment. A squirrel has a full-blown existential crisis just because you exist in its peripheral vision. Why? We are soft, slow, mostly hairless apes who get winded climbing 2 flights of stairs. We don't have venom, claws, or the ability to detach our tails to escape. So why is the animal kingdom, even the apex predators, absolutely terrified of us? The answer is a genetic algorithm baked into their DNA. And it turns out, we have spent millions of years earning that fear. The genetic ghost, persistence hunting. This fear didn't start with the invention of guns, or even fire. It started millions of years ago with a concept scientists call the landscape of fear. Animals don't just react to predators they see. They shape their entire lives, where they sleep, drink, and eat, around the possibility of a predator being nearby. For early humans, our superpower wasn't speed. It was persistence. Our ancestors were persistence hunters. We would jog at a medium pace for hours in the midday heat until the animal literally collapsed from exhaustion. To a gazelle, a bipedal creature that just never stops coming, is one of the most horrifying things imaginable. Over thousands of generations, the animals that didn't run from human silhouettes were eaten. The ones that survived passed that wariness on. Today, that fear isn't a learned behavior. It's a biological survival algorithm, the super predator. Why voices scare lions. You might think a mountain lion or a wolf has nothing to fear from a hiker, but a 2016 study from the University of Western Ontario suggests otherwise. Humans are the super predator. Researchers played recordings of casual human conversation, the kind of stuff you'd hear at a bus stop, to wild animals. The results were chilling. Mountain lions fled from the sound of human voices at more than twice the rate they fled from other predators, like barking dogs or howling wolves. Bobcats, skunks, and possums all bolted faster and harder from human speech than any other threat. Even apex predators have a historical memory of us. We didn't just hunt their prey, we hunted them. We pushed them out of their homes and killed them when they got too close to our livestock. We aren't just another predator. We are the one threat they can't solve. Breaking the algorithm. The unpredictability problem. Most predators follow a pattern. A wolf hunts at dawn. A crocodile stays near the water. Prey animals can solve those variables to stay alive. But humans? We break the algorithm. We hunt in the morning, at night, alone, or in groups. We use tools, spears, traps, rifles, even drones. We hunt things we eat, things we don't eat, and things that aren't even a threat to us. And then, sometimes, we sit on a park bench and feed the birds for 20 minutes. To an animal brain, this is deeply unsettling. We move weird, we smell weird, and our behavior has no consistent pattern. When an animal can't solve a variable, the only rational response is maximum avoidance. The ecology of fear, changing the world by being awake. This fear doesn't just change individual behavior, it changes entire planets. When wolves were reintroduced to Yellowstone, the fear they instilled in deer allowed the vegetation to return, which actually changed the course of rivers. Humans are doing this on a global scale. A 2018 study found that mammals across 6 continents have become significantly more nocturnal just because we are around.
Animals are shifting their entire lives to the darkness to minimize contact with us. Even our scent is a deterrent. Research shows that human sweat left on scent strips can reduce animal activity as much as the urine of a mountain lion. Just by existing and smelling like a human, you are a chemical signal of danger. The outliers, islands, and habituation. But what about the animals that aren't scared? If you go to the Galapagos Islands or Antarctica, places where humans haven't historically been a major threat, the animals show almost zero fear. Darwin noted birds that wouldn't fly away and iguanas that didn't care if you touched them. This proves that fear of humans isn't a factory setting, it's a program installed by experience. And that program can be uninstalled through habituation. Urban pigeons and crows have lived alongside us so long that the fear response has been deselected. Crows have even evolved to recognize individual human faces, keeping mental notes on who is a friend and who is a foe. Mountain gorillas in Rwanda have gone from fleeing humans to seemingly enjoying their company after years of respectful, non-threatening contact. Conclusion: choosing to be different. The landscape of fear is a reflection of our history. Animals are scared of us because, statistically speaking, they're making the right call. We have caused extinctions on every landmass we've touched, but the same intelligence that made us the most terrifying predator in history is also what allows us to choose differently. The fear isn't permanent. In reserves and rewilded areas, animals are slowly returning to the daylight and the open fields. The landscape of fear can be dismantled, but it requires us to be reliably, consistently, and provably not a threat. So next time you see a squirrel have a crisis because you're nearby, remember, it's just running a survival program that we spent millions of years writing. The question is, what kind of story are we going to write next?